In this lesson, I'll take a closer look at the paragraph tag, the P tag, and also at how alignment works in the margins and right alignment and centering and all of that. Open your examples folder, and inside that, the text folder, find the file called paragraph.html. Load that up in your text editor. This document has two paragraphs. The first one says the paragraph tag is a container, and that's true. It has an open tag and an end tag and content, which is the text itself. The second paragraph says a paragraph is normally formatted as a sequence of words wrapped at the margins and with a line of blank space separating the paragraph from other paragraphs on the page. We've seen that effect before, but go ahead and load it up into your browser. I'll use Mozilla for this one, and notice how this paragraph wraps. Paragraph is normally formatted as a sequence of words, and it goes on and on and on. Then between and with, there's a break, and the word with starts the second line. And notice those lines are right next to each other, where there's a larger space, a blank line's worth of space, between this first paragraph and the second paragraph. Now, if we look at the paragraph again in the text editor, you'll notice that it's on 3 lines here. The first line wraps after the word wrapped, and the second line starts at the word at. Now over in the browser, there's those two words right next to each other on the same line, and it doesn't wrap until and. The reason for that is that if you'll remember, all spaces are treated the same, no matter how many spaces are next to each other, or whether they include tabs or blank lines or what have you. They're all treated as one space. So this line break here is completely ignored by the browser, and it's just treated as one space. In fact, this entire paragraph is treated as if it were all on one line like this. See that? Now the paragraph is all on one line, and it goes all the way out here to wherever that is, column 179, down there. And it's all on one line. Now, I'll go ahead and I'll save that and go and reload in the browser. And notice that it doesn't change. It's still wrapped the same way. In fact, if I squeeze this down, I can make it wrap onto 4 lines or 5 lines. And it's all just exactly the same, as if it just doesn't matter. And in fact, it doesn't. It just doesn't matter how it's wrapped in the source document. So why do we even bother wrapping it in the source document? It's a matter of usability and readability. It's a good idea to keep your source documents as neat and tidy as you can. I know that sounds a little mother hen-ish, but the truth is you're going to have to come back whether you think so or not, a month from now, a week from now, 5 years from now, and look at this document again and figure out what you meant and edit it and change it and make it different. And so it makes a difference when you come back to it later. It may not make a difference to you today, but it makes a difference when you come back to it later. Trust me, I find myself editing documents that are 5, 10 years old sometimes. So keep in mind that in the source document, your formatting means something entirely different than it does on the web browser. On the web browser, the formatting is all about the tags. This paragraph break is here because you have a P container around this paragraph and another P container around this paragraph. That's what creates those spaces. And so you have this document formatted the way that you intended it based on the tags, the markup in the XHTML source document. On the other hand, the source document is formatted for readability for the source code. This is formatted in such a way that it makes sense to you in the context of the source code, so you can clearly see, here's the P tags. They're not like buried in the middle of everything. You can clearly see. In fact, it wouldn't make a difference to this document if we went and put everything on one line. So that all the way out here, you got both these paragraphs all in one line. In fact, I've seen entire HTML documents all on one line. It doesn't make a difference in how it works, but you just try and come back and edit that someday. See, over here in the browser, it's no different at all. But here in the source document, it makes a big difference. You're just not going to want to look at that and have to deal with it several months, weeks, years down the road from now. There is a little bit more to the P tag, to the paragraph container, than just putting a blank space between paragraphs. You can also control the way that the paragraph wraps, the way that it aligns. For example, let me just put this down on a line by itself and set in here an align tag. Align equals left. Now that is the default. In other words, if I go over here and reload, that is the default alignment to the left. On the other hand, maybe I want it to align on the right. I want ragged left and justified right. So I say align equals right. And save. And reload. Now my paragraph is aligned on the right. Perhaps I want it justified on both sides. So align equals justify. And go over to the browser and reload. And now it's aligned on both sides. And finally, maybe I don't want it aligned on either side. I want both sides ragged and centered. That's align equals center. And reload. And now the paragraph is aligned, centered like that, with ragged right and ragged left. So that is the other use of the paragraph container, is to align text the way that you want to see it on the page. The default is align equals left. So if you don't specify, then it will come up aligned left. And you can specify if you want to. You can say align equals left if you want to be more specific, and that never hurts. From my experience, all the browsers default to align equals left anyway, so it's perfectly acceptable to leave it out entirely. And one final note, it's worth noting with align equals center that as you resize the window, it all stays centered. And that pretty much works like that in every browser. Why don't we go ahead and load this up in Internet Explorer, and you can see that it does the same thing there. There it is. And you can bring it down. So there you have it. That's the P tag and its alignment feature.